G'day and welcome back to the channel. Today is day 3 of being in isolation. On today's episode, we're going to be working back on Grace. I'm going to show you how to install a brake master cylinder rebuild kit. Alright, so as you can see, I've still got everything pulled apart in terms of the timing. I still need to put the radiator in, do the fan, do the steady mount bars. There's a couple little things I need to do, but just trying to work through those during isolation. So the first thing we want to make sure is we use a guard cover. Remember that brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning that it'll break down with any sort of moisture. So it's imperative that we change it every 2 years or 30,000 kilometers, whichever occurs first. So what we need to be doing is removing this pipe that runs from the T piece just here, where it runs to the back of the car to the master cylinder. So we're going to be releasing the pressure here as well as on the back of the pipe. Then we can remove the pipe, undo the 2 nuts, then we can get inside the car and release the pin that holds the brake pedal to the master cylinder. Now going back to what I was just saying about brake fluid being hygroscopic, if you get on your paint, it's going to start to bubble it. So unfortunately, mine started to bubble the paint down here, but the easiest way to get rid of brake fluid is just with a little bit of water. So in order to get this off, all we need to do is release these 2 nuts on either side. So they're 2 1/2-inch nuts. We do have fairly good access. This side will probably just need to use a spanner, but the other side I should be able to just get a socket in there and do it. Now what we need to do before we do this is remove the pin that goes between the brake pedal and the master cylinder itself. These can be super fiddly, but I've got an excellent tip and a tool to show you how to get those back in. So let's jump inside the car, remove the front seats for better access, then we can get the pin out and then remove the master cylinder. Alright, so we have the seats out. Now comes the fun part of trying to get the pin out from the brake pedal itself. So in case you haven't seen, I have made these signs up. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed already, jump on, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you know every time a new episode comes out. These I just had made up to sit in my car, so when I go to car shows, I can leave it on my dash and people can go check out my channel. So while the interior is fairly bare at the moment, once we're finished, we're going to give it a quick vacuum as well. Alright, so we're under here now. As you can see, all the carpet's gone a little bit funny as well. It started to peel and separate and gone a bit fluffy, so I probably need to replace that, but that's no dramas at all at the moment. So the pin lies up in here. It is very difficult to see, just where my finger is on the other side. The pin comes out through this way, which I've got it set up. So it is going to be very difficult to film. I'll try and film the most of it that I possibly can. If not, you're just going to have to take my word for it. But yeah, anyone that owns a classic Mini or has worked on one will know how difficult this job can be. Alright, so I made a bit of a liar of myself. That actually came out significantly easier than what I remember. Probably because when you go to put it back in, it's such a fan-doodled mother trucker that you sit there for 25 minutes trying to put it in, and then when it finally goes in, it doesn't go all the way in, then it comes out, then you got to stop on the side of the road and fix it. So let's get to the front of the car, let's remove the brake master cylinder, get reaming it, cleaning it, and installing the new kit. Alright, so next thing we need to do is remove the 2 nuts to remove the master cylinder itself. Now, any spilt brake fluid, once we've finished doing this job, we'll then clean it up afterwards. Alright, let's stick it on the bench, let's start stripping it. Alright, so you didn't see, but I just poured this into my oil collection container, just to make sure that we get out as much fluid as we possibly can. Now, these are the same as clutch master cylinders, even wheel cylinders, in the sense that it does have a rubber boot around the bottom here. So there is a little bit of sweat and there's a little bit of congestion build up here. Not entirely sure what this is. It looks like probably just dried brake fluid, I'd imagine. But a really good way to know if it's leaking is to slide that boot back. Considering this has gone completely rock hard and I can't move it at all, probably tells me that the seal is leaking. So it's actually leaking internally as well. Also, there is a seal between this plastic housing and the sleeve of the master cylinder itself. So ensure that you change that one as well. So first step, we're just going to remove the cap. We just got to make sure that we put a rag underneath there because there is still a little bit of fluid in there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just go tip it in my oil collection container. That way I'm not going to spill too much all over the floor. So take the 2 bolts out, put them aside, and then just separate it. Okay, so In order for this to come off, we need to slide it upwards as it has a locator at the top. Okay, so we just lay that off to the side, make sure it doesn't spill anywhere. First thing we're going to do is remove this boot down the bottom here, and then we're going to pull the insides out and we're going to rebuild it. All right, so that rubber boot will just pull straight off. All right, so it's got a circlip on the inside. We just need to remove the circlip to be able to pull everything out. Now, when you do this, it will be under spring tension. So whatever you do, be prepared, as well as don't push the master cylinder up this way. Otherwise, it's going to shoot fluid out the side. So it's going to draw it in from these two holes on the side here and then push it out through there. So if you are going to do it, put a rag over both ends, give a little bit of a push. If any fluid's going to come out, it'll come out then. Make sure as well, when you finish doing this job, you do a brake fluid bleed. If you haven't already seen, check it out in the description above. All right, there we go. A little bit of fluid came out, that's to be expected. So the bottom seal, so this one here faces the bottom. So as you can see, it's got a bit of a lip on there. So it tapers upwards towards the top. The flat end goes towards the top of the brake master cylinder. Now there is one more piece inside here. All right, what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of compressed air, just push it down the end, and then it will push the piston out. Just remember though, it will probably spit a little bit of fluid, so be prepared for it. All right, always be safety aware. Let's put some safety glasses on. Let's push this out. Now remember, it's going to want to push this way, and as well as probably a little bit of brake fluid through these two holes here. So we just want to make sure that we cover those as much as we can. Grab your airline, a little bit of pressure. Feels like it's just moved forward. Yep, perfect. This one, we have like a little brass washer at the end. So that one faces the bottom, and then it also has another seal. So we put that one off to the side. And then at the top, it appears that there is another part. So this is where the spring will be, I'd imagine. Got a bit of a tapered spring. So as you can see, the end on the left here, oh, starting to fog up. The end on the left is smaller than the one on the right. So that's how it comes out. Let's go give it a quick clean, and then we'll come back and start the reaming process. All right, so before I was just talking about reaming it. We're not actually going to be reaming it, we just want to be honing it. Now this is a wheel cylinder hone. It has two edges just here and here with an adjustable side as well. So you can put it in a drill. So that end just goes in the drill, and then you just adjust the feet to where you want them and then lock it in position. Now, I did get the smallest one available, but sadly it is just too big for the brake master cylinder itself. So what we're going to do is just grab a little bit of light emery cloth, and we're just going to give it a nice easy clean inside there. So probably just stick it on the end of your finger, just work it around a little bit just to get any debris and burr off the inside of the master cylinder. All right, so I just got a bit of 2000 wet and dry. We're just going to run it around inside there. Just give it a nice light hone. Now the purpose of doing this is just to get rid of any burrs and debris off there. That way when you go to put it all back together, it's going to properly seal the inside of the master cylinder. So you want to try and get this down as far as you possibly can to make sure that you clean the entirety of it all. Now if this doesn't fix the problem and it still leaks, I will need a new master cylinder, or alternatively I can send it to a professional and get them to do it. All right, fairly happy with that. Give it another clean, then we can start the reassembly process. All right, so to clean this out, all I did was get a bit of brake cleaner, clean the inside of it, and then get a little bit of compressed air and just clean it out. So these kits aren't overly expensive. I think they're like 30 bucks for a rebuild kit. If you want to attempt it yourself, it is a really good way to learn how things go together, how stuff comes apart, and how stuff actually works. So the reassembly process is exactly the same as it came apart, just in reverse. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the spring, and we're going to put that in. But before we do, just give it a quick clean with a rag. Make sure your rags are always clean as well. If you're going to be doing brake fluid repairs or anything to do with brakes and you've got brake fluid on a rag, make sure you dispose of it after you finish working on it. That way you can ensure that nothing you touch down the track is going to contaminate the surface and potentially destroy your paint. Slide the spring straight in. So as I said before, we have two different types of seals. We have one that is completely sealed, literally, no pun intended, and it only faces one way. And then the other one is an open seal. So this one will slide on this shaft. So we're going to do one at a time. We'll grab the new kit and then we can start putting it together. Like I always say, here's what I prepared earlier. Have a couple of new components in here. So we have the boot that goes at the bottom, the seal that goes at the front, or the first seal towards the bottom of the brake pedal, and then we have this one here as well. Now when you put this together, you do want to use a bit of rubber grease. Alternatively, you can use a little bit of Vaseline. Now like most seals, you don't want them to go in dry, otherwise you'll find that it will cause it to leak. So always apply just a littlest bit of sealant around the outside, and also you don't want it to get pinched either. So you might go to put the seal in and then find that it has pinched the seal, and you don't know until we put it all back together. You go to try to create a bit of brake pressure, and then one thing leads to another, you got to pull it all back apart again. All right, so that's on. So now we just get the seal, slowly, carefully and easily drive it down in there. I want to make sure that goes in as straight as possible until it hits the end of the spring. Yep, sweet. So that's on the end of the spring now. Terrific. Now we do have a little copper washer. So that'll be where this seats against here. Otherwise, if this is pushing directly on the rubber surface, you might find that it will distort it. So that just helps to prevent any sort of distortion, as well as give it a nice comfortable mating surface in which it can apply pressure to the inside of the rubber seal. All right, so drop that one down in there, make sure it lands the right way so it's facing upwards. Terrific. Next thing is going to be replacing this seal as well. So all we need to do, once again, make note of the way that the seal goes on and off. That way you can ensure that you get it right. Otherwise, if it goes the wrong way, it'll be pushing the brake fluid the wrong direction, not sealing, therefore not creating brake pressure. Clean that up with the brake cleaner as well, and then put the new seal on. Make sure as well you don't use anything abrasive on these components. Otherwise, if you do, you run the risk that it's not going to seal properly, or it's going to damage the surface, and then it's going to create problems down the track. So grab the new seal and then just slide it on. So you do just have to stretch this one. It is designed to be nice and firm. Try not to use any tools on here if possible. You can buy specific tools designed for seals, and that just helps to prevent any damage. All right, so she's now on. Terrific. So it sits butt up against there as well, so there is going to be a little bit of gap between this edge here and this one here. Once again, a little bit of Vaso or rubber grease. And make sure you install this one going the correct way as well. So it goes like this. So the flat edge is going to be facing upwards. Push it down there. Awesome. Okay, so because of the spring tension, it's going to want to naturally push out. All right, so this one we're just going to have to give a bit of love to be able to get it over this edge. All right, so this one here just takes a little bit of loving to get it around the outside of the stop. So just work it around there. There we go, take that one off. Hopefully the new one will be a bit easier to fit on there. Yeah, so what it needs to do is it sits on this sleeve here. So the seal sits directly there, and that's what butts all up against there and creates a nice tight seal, prevents any fluid coming down. So if you do have fluid inside here, remember that you do have an internal leak inside the master cylinder and you need to get it replaced or rebuild it. Just being careful as well. Squeezing this through here. Now remember, it is rubber, so it will bend and stretch to where you need it to be. All right, cool. So that's on there nice and tight. That's firm, that's good. Now last thing we need to do is put on the circlip back on here. We're gonna have to apply a little bit of pressure to be able to put this on. If you haven't already got yourself a vise, guys, go and get yourself one, because it is an amazing tool to have at home, especially when you're doing stuff like this. All right, so grab your circlip pliers, push it together. Make sure it goes in nice and square. Push as far as it'll go. Okay, that circlip's not in all the way. Just need to send it home a little bit more. Double check it's all the way in. Yep, sweet. So a good way to know if a circlip is all the way in is take the pressure off the item and then just rotate the circlip. If it rotates freely, then it means it's in its home. Refit the rubber boot. Hey presto, it's done. All right, that's nice and clean now. A little bit of Vaseline around the outside of the seal. Once you're happy with it, bolt it back on, making sure that the little tab aligns with this bit here as well when it goes to go back on. Grab your 2 bolts. Now these also have crush tubes on the inside, so that means that there's a what looks like a toilet roll, I guess, a little cylinder that goes between the bit of plastic. That just prevents you cracking the plastic. So when you're tightening it up, you're not just going to over tighten it and destroy it. All right, so now that everything is refitted to it, I'm going to go reinstall it in the car. Coming up shortly will be Tomo's tech tip. Alright, so we've got the brake master cylinder fitted. We can now refit the hose that goes from the master cylinder to the joiner just down here. Then we can wash it all down with water, blow it all out with a bit of compressed air and get rid of any leftover residue. Alright, so now that the line is tight, we're going to put a bit of brake fluid in there. We're going to attach it inside the car between the master cylinder and the brake pedal, which I'll show you that Tomo's tech tip in 1 second. Then we'll come back and bleed it. If you haven't already seen how to bleed it, you can check it out in the link in the description above. Also, don't forget, in there we have a new seal for the cap. So take the old one out, dispose of that into the bin, and then fit the new one. Alright, so we're back inside the car. We're just about to reconnect the brake pedal to the master cylinder, and this is the pin that needs to go through. As you can see, it's got a hole on the end which enables a pin to go through, which prevents the pin from coming out. Anyone that's done this job knows that it is a pain in the ass to do it. So grab yourself one of these. I'll leave the link in the description below, and all you need to do is slide the pin in through here. Once it goes all the way in, bang, that's it. It'll hold it in there. Saves you fiddling around with a pair of long nose pliers for 10 minutes trying to get this thing in. I have tried for at least 20 to 30 minutes on the side of the road trying to do this, trying to get this pin back in. So for the cost of 20 or 30 bucks, it'll save you at least half an hour. So I finally got the pin in there. I was having a little bit of trouble only because the pin is too long for where it needs to be, and every time I go to put it in, I remember how difficult it can be. That tool is a lifesaver, so as I said, I'll put in the link in the description below where you can get yours. Thanks heaps for watching, guys. I'm going to clean the inside of the car, give the seats a bit of a clean, put them back together. If you haven't already seen, check out the other link in the description above on how to fit Cobra seats to your classic Mini. Like always, stay COVID safe. I want to see you right here on another episode of Tomo's Tune-Ups. Also, before I go, don't forget to clean down any brake fluid you've spilt with water.